Echoes of Innovation. Alexander Graham Bell's journey from silence to speech invites you to explore the remarkable life and enduring legacy of a man whose name is synonymous with communication itself. Alexander Graham Bell, more than just the inventor of the telephone, was a visionary, a scientist, an educator, and a humanitarian who dedicated his life to understanding and manipulating the very essence of sound. This book delves into the multifaceted world of Bell, moving beyond the simplistic narrative of the telephone inventor to reveal the complex tapestry of his experiences, motivations, and profound impact on society. We will trace his roots from the vibrant intellectual atmosphere of his family home in Edinburgh, Scotland, where his father, Melville Bell, developed the innovative visible speech system, a method of teaching the deaf to speak by visually representing the positions of the vocal organs. This early exposure to the challenges faced by the deaf community, combined with his inherent curiosity and scientific aptitude, laid the foundation for his future endeavors. Echoes of Innovation meticulously examines Bell's pioneering work in the field of acoustics, highlighting his relentless pursuit of understanding the intricacies of sound waves and their transmission. His early experiments with tuning forks, phonographs, and other devices laid the groundwork for his most famous invention. This book not only details the technical aspects of the telephone's development, but also delves into the competitive landscape of the time, where Bell faced intense rivalry and legal challenges to protect his groundbreaking creation. However, Bell's contributions extend far beyond the telephone. This biography explores his diverse interests, including his work on photophones, transmitting speech on a beam of light, metal detectors used in an attempt to save President James A. Garfield, and his pioneering experiments in aeronautics, particularly his involvement with the Aerial Experiment Association. We will also examine his unwavering commitment to improving the lives of the deaf, evident in his establishment of schools and advocacy for innovative teaching methods. The story of Alexander Graham Bell is not without its complexities. The book addresses the controversies surrounding the invention of the telephone, exploring the claims of other inventors, such as Elisha Gray, and the legal battles that ensued. It also examines Bell's views on eugenics and his advocacy for restricting marriages among the deaf, a perspective that reflects the prevailing social attitudes of his time, but remains a point of ethical scrutiny today. Echoes of Innovation seeks to provide a balanced and comprehensive portrayal of Alexander Graham Bell, a man of extraordinary intellect, unwavering determination, and profound impact. It is a journey through the life of a visionary who transformed the world, bridging the gap between silence and speech and forever changing the way we communicate. This book will reveal the enduring resonance of his work, the lasting echoes of his innovation, and the profound legacy he left for generations to come. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button to support the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an audiobook that could change your life. Now, let's begin. Enjoy. Chapter 1: The Scottish Crucible, Family, Sound, and Early Influences. The story of Alexander Graham Bell begins not in a laboratory filled with wires and circuits, but in the vibrant and intellectually stimulating atmosphere of a Victorian-era Edinburgh home. Born Alexander Bell on March 3, 1847, to Melville Bell and Eliza Grace Simmons Bell, his formative years were deeply shaped by the family's profound connection to the world of sound and speech. This chapter delves into the crucible of his upbringing, exploring the familial influences, societal context, and early experiences that molded the young Alexander into the innovative thinker he would become. Melville Bell, Alexander's father, was a renowned elocutionist and phonetician, a man deeply interested in the nuances of human speech. He developed visible speech, a system of phonetic symbols designed to represent the articulation of sounds. This revolutionary system, intended to aid the deaf in learning to speak, became a central feature of the Bell household. From a young age, Alexander was immersed in the intricacies of phonetics, learning to decipher and manipulate the symbols of visible speech. He observed his father's lessons, assisted in demonstrations, and witnessed firsthand the transformative power of communication for those who had been marginalized by their inability to hear or speak. This exposure to the challenges faced by the deaf profoundly impacted Alexander, shaping his lifelong commitment to improving their lives. Eliza Grace Simmons Bell, Alexander's mother, was a talented painter and musician. Although she gradually lost her hearing during Alexander's childhood, her love of art and music remained a constant presence in the home. Her deafness, rather than hindering her, seemed to sharpen her other senses and fueled her determination to maintain a vibrant and fulfilling life. Alexander's relationship with his mother was deeply affectionate and shaped his sensitivity to the challenges of deafness. He witnessed her struggles firsthand, understanding the isolation and frustration that came with the inability to fully participate in the world of sound. Edinburgh, in the mid-19th century, was a city teeming with intellectual curiosity and scientific advancements. The Scottish Enlightenment had left a lasting legacy, fostering a spirit of innovation and inquiry. The Bell family thrived in this environment, engaging in lively discussions about science, literature, and the arts. Alexander and his two brothers, Melville James Bell and Edward Charles Bell, were encouraged to explore their interests and pursue their intellectual passions. The brothers were close, engaging in playful experimentation and intellectual competition. Alexander, however, displayed a particular aptitude for problem-solving and a keen interest in how things worked. An early example of Alexander's ingenuity manifested in his childhood. Disturbed by the tedium of husking wheat at a local mill, the young Alexander designed a machine that automated the process. This simple invention, using rotating paddles and nail brushes, significantly improved the efficiency of the mill and earned him the respect of the community. This early success instilled in him a sense of accomplishment and reinforced his belief in the power of innovation. Tragedy struck the Bell family early on. Both of Alexander's brothers, Melville James and Edward Charles, succumbed to tuberculosis. These devastating losses had a profound impact on Alexander, reinforcing his determination to make a meaningful contribution to the world. He felt a responsibility to carry on the family legacy and to use his talents to improve the lives of others. By the time he reached his late teens, Alexander had already demonstrated a remarkable talent for science and a deep understanding of the principles of sound. He had assisted his father in his demonstrations of visible speech, taught elocution, and conducted his own experiments with sound and electricity. The seeds of his future inventions had been sown, nurtured by the intellectual environment of his home, the challenges faced by his deaf mother, and the tragic loss of his brothers. He was on the cusp of embarking on a journey that would revolutionize communication and leave an indelible mark on the world. The Scottish crucible had forged a mind destined for innovation. Chapter 2: Visible Speech and the Path to Education. Finding Purpose. Following the profound losses of his brothers, Alexander Bell intensified his focus on his work and his purpose in life. This chapter explores his growing dedication to education, particularly for the deaf, and his deepening involvement with his father's visible speech system. It details his early teaching experiences, his travels, and the development of his unique approach to helping the deaf communicate. This period marks a significant turning point in Bell's life, setting the stage for his later scientific pursuits and cementing his commitment to improving the lives of the hearing-impaired. Melville Bell's visible speech system became increasingly central to Alexander's work. He assisted his father in demonstrating the system to educators and institutions across Britain. Alexander's innate ability to connect with people, combined with his understanding of the system, made him a highly effective instructor. He traveled to schools and institutions, teaching teachers how to use visible speech to help their deaf students learn to articulate sounds and speak clearly. These experiences provided him with invaluable insights into the challenges faced by deaf individuals and the diverse methods employed to educate them. He witnessed firsthand the limitations of traditional lip reading and the potential of visible speech to unlock the power of communication. In 1867, Bell accepted a teaching position at the Westonhouse Academy in Elgin, Scotland. There, he taught elocution and music, utilizing his knowledge of phonetics and his passion for sound. He quickly gained a reputation as a dedicated and innovative teacher, employing engaging methods to captivate his students. He recognized that effective teaching went beyond simply imparting knowledge. It required understanding the individual needs and learning styles of each student. However, Bell's commitment to the deaf community remained paramount. He spent countless hours working with deaf individuals, patiently guiding them through the intricacies of visible speech. He adapted his teaching methods to suit their specific challenges, celebrating their small victories and encouraging them to persevere. He saw the potential for deaf individuals to lead fulfilling and productive lives, and he was determined to help them overcome the barriers that society had erected. In 1868, Bell began working with Susanna E. Hull, a deaf girl living in London. He used visible speech to help her improve her articulation and communication skills. His success with Susanna further solidified his belief in the efficacy of the system and fueled his desire to expand its reach. He meticulously documented his progress, refining his techniques and developing new strategies for teaching the deaf. Bell's reputation as a skilled educator and expert in visible speech continued to grow. He was invited to present his methods at conferences and workshops, sharing his knowledge with other educators and advocating for the widespread adoption of the system. He became a vocal advocate for the deaf community, arguing for their right to education and equal opportunities. The demands of his work took a toll on Bell's health. He suffered from persistent lung problems, exacerbated by the damp and smoky environment of London. On the advice of his doctors, he decided to immigrate to Canada in 1870, hoping that the cleaner air would improve his condition. This move marked a significant turning point in his life, bringing him to a new continent and providing him with fresh opportunities to pursue his passions. Before leaving Britain, Bell made a crucial decision that would shape his future scientific endeavors. He acquired a phonautograph, a device invented by Edouard Leon Scott de Martinville that could visually record sound waves. This device fascinated Bell, sparking his interest in the physical properties of sound and inspiring him to explore the possibilities of transmitting speech electronically. Bell's journey from Edinburgh to London and ultimately to Canada was a journey of self-discovery and purpose. He found his calling in helping the deaf communicate, dedicating his life to unlocking their potential and advocating for their rights. His work with visible speech provided him with a deep understanding of the mechanics of speech and the challenges faced by the hearing impaired. This knowledge, coupled with his growing interest in the science of sound, laid the foundation for his future inventions, forever changing the landscape of communication. The path to education had illuminated his destiny. Chapter 3: Transatlantic Voyage, Canada, A New Beginning and Electric Dreams. The relocation of the Bell family to Brantford, Ontario, Canada, in 1870 marked a new chapter in Alexander Graham Bell's life. This chapter details Bell's adaptation to the Canadian landscape, his continued work with the deaf, and the burgeoning of his fascination with electricity as a means of transmitting speech. It examines the scientific influences that shaped his thinking and the early experiments that ultimately led to the invention of the telephone. This period represents a crucial transition, as Bell began to shift his focus from education to the realm of scientific innovation. The fresh air and open spaces of Brantford proved beneficial to Bell's health. He quickly immersed himself in the local community, establishing a vocal physiology practice and continuing his work with deaf students. He developed a close relationship with the Mohawk community of the nearby Six Nations Reserve, studying their language and culture. He also established a private practice in Brantford, tutoring deaf students from across the region. His reputation as an exceptional teacher continued to grow, attracting students from all walks of life. While continuing his work with the deaf, Bell began to explore the possibilities of transmitting speech electrically. He devoured books and articles on electricity and acoustics, seeking to understand the fundamental principles that govern sound and its propagation. He was particularly inspired by the work of Hermann von Helmholtz, a German physicist who had developed a method of transmitting musical tones using electricity. Bell realized that if musical tones could be transmitted, then perhaps speech could be transmitted as well. He began conducting experiments in his spare time, using rudimentary equipment to explore the relationship between sound waves and electrical currents. He constructed various devices, including a modified phonograph and a harmonic telegraph, attempting to convert sound vibrations into electrical signals and then back into audible sound. His early experiments were often frustrating, yielding limited results. However, he remained undeterred, driven by a relentless curiosity and an unwavering belief in the potential of his ideas. In 1872, Bell opened a school for the deaf in Boston, Massachusetts. The school, known as the School of Vocal Physiology and Mechanics of Speech, quickly gained a reputation for its innovative teaching methods and its success in helping deaf students learn to speak. Bell's school attracted students from across the United States and Canada, solidifying his position as a leading figure in the education of the deaf. During his time in Boston, Bell met Mabel Hubbard, a deaf student who would later become his wife. Mabel was the daughter of Gardner Green Hubbard, a prominent lawyer and philanthropist who was deeply involved in the education of the deaf. Mabel's intelligence, determination, and vibrant personality captivated Bell. Their relationship deepened over time, and they became inseparable. Mabel's unwavering support and belief in Bell's abilities proved to be invaluable as he pursued his scientific endeavors. Gardner Hubbard also became a key figure in Bell's journey. Recognizing Bell's talent and potential, Hubbard provided him with financial support and encouragement, helping him to secure patents and navigate the complex world of business. Hubbard's business acumen and connections proved to be instrumental in the development and commercialization of the telephone. The move to Canada had provided Bell with a fresh start and the opportunity to pursue his scientific passions. He continued to work tirelessly on his experiments, refining his understanding of electricity and acoustics. He was driven by a vision of a world where distance no longer posed a barrier to communication, where people could connect instantly, regardless of their location. This vision, coupled with his unwavering dedication and the support of his family and friends, propelled him forward on his path to inventing the telephone. The transatlantic voyage had set the stage for a revolution. Chapter 4: The Electrical Voice, Invention and Early Demonstrations. This chapter focuses on the pivotal years of 1874 to 1876, chronicling the intense period of invention that culminated in the creation and initial demonstration of the telephone. It details the key breakthroughs, the collaborative efforts with Thomas A. Watson, and the challenges overcome in bringing Bell's vision of transmitting speech electrically to life. This section explores the critical experiments and the scientific principles that underpin the telephone, highlighting the ingenuity and perseverance required to realize this revolutionary device. working with Thomas A. Watson, a skilled electrician and mechanic. Bell began to translate his theoretical ideas into tangible devices. Watson possessed the technical expertise to build the complex instruments that Bell envisioned. Their collaboration proved to be remarkably fruitful, with Watson's practical skills complementing Bell's scientific knowledge and inventive mind. The two men worked tirelessly in Bell's Boston laboratory, often late into the night, experimenting with different designs and configurations. One of the key breakthroughs came when Bell realized that the key to transmitting speech lay in varying the intensity of an electrical current in proportion to the variations in air pressure caused by sound waves. He envisioned a device that could convert sound vibrations into electrical signals, transmit those signals along a wire, and then convert them back into audible sound at the receiving end. The initial experiments involved using a membrane, or diaphragm, connected to an electromagnet. When sound waves struck the diaphragm, it vibrated, causing the electromagnet to induce a fluctuating electrical current. This current was then transmitted along a wire to another device, where it caused a similar electromagnet to vibrate a second diaphragm, reproducing the original sound. On March 10, 1876, Bell and Watson achieved a momentous breakthrough. While working on their experimental telephone, Bell accidentally spilled acid on his clothes. He instinctively called out to Watson, who was in another room, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." To Bell's astonishment, Watson heard the words clearly through the telephone receiver. This simple phrase, transmitted across the wire, marked the first successful demonstration of two-way voice communication using electricity. Following this success, Bell and Watson focused on refining their invention and preparing it for public demonstration. They applied for and received a patent for the telephone on March 7, 1876, a patent that would become the subject of intense legal challenges in the years to come. The first public demonstration of the telephone took place at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia in June 1876. The demonstration was a resounding success, capturing the imagination of the public and the scientific community alike. Emperor Dom Pedro II of Brazil, who was visiting the exposition, famously exclaimed, "My God, it talks!" after hearing Bell speak through the telephone. The demonstration catapulted Bell to international fame and solidified his reputation as a brilliant inventor. The early telephone was a far cry from the sleek, sophisticated devices we use today. It was bulky, cumbersome, and often unreliable. The sound quality was poor, and the range was limited. However, the basic principles of the telephone were sound, and Bell and Watson continued to refine and improve their invention. Bell recognized the enormous potential of the telephone and began to envision a world where the device would be commonplace, connecting people across vast distances. He established the Bell Telephone Company in 1877, laying the foundation for a telecommunications empire that would transform the world. The electrical voice had been born, and its echoes would soon resonate across the globe. Chapter 5. Challenges and Triumphs. Protecting the Invention. The rapid success of the telephone was immediately met with numerous challenges, most significantly the defense of the patent against rivals claiming priority of invention. This chapter dives into the legal battles and fierce competition that Alexander Graham Bell faced in securing his claim as the inventor of the telephone. It explores the significant figures who challenged Bell's patent, the evidence presented, and the ultimate outcomes that shaped the early telecommunications industry. This section highlights the importance of intellectual property and the intense pressures of innovation. Even before the formal establishment of the Bell Telephone Company, others were racing to develop similar technologies. Elisha Gray, a highly respected inventor, filed a caveat, a preliminary notification of intent to patent, for a telephone-like device on the very same day that Bell filed his patent application. The timing of these filings became a central point of contention. In the ensuing legal battles, Gray's supporters argued that he had conceived of the telephone independently and that his invention predated Bell's. The patent lawsuits began almost immediately and continued for years, consuming a significant portion of Bell's time and resources. The Bell Telephone Company faced hundreds of legal challenges, each threatening to invalidate Bell's patent and open the door for competitors to flood the market with their versions of the telephone. The legal battles were complex and fiercely contested, involving expert witnesses, detailed scientific arguments, and intense scrutiny of patent filings and laboratory notebooks. Bell and his legal team meticulously gathered evidence to support his claim as the first inventor of the telephone. They presented detailed accounts of his experiments, demonstrating the step-by-step process that led to the invention. One of the key pieces of evidence was Bell's laboratory notebook, which documented his experiments and ideas. The notebook showed that Bell had been working on the concept of the telephone for several years before filing his patent application. However, critics argued that some of the entries in the notebook had been altered or added after the fact. Elisha Gray's supporters presented evidence that he had conceived of a similar device and that he had even built a working model of his telephone before Bell's invention. However, Gray's caveat lacked the specificity of Bell's patent application, and he was unable to provide conclusive proof that he had transmitted speech electrically before Bell. The Supreme Court of the United States ultimately upheld Bell's patent, ruling that he was indeed the first inventor of the telephone. The court's decision was based on a careful examination of the evidence and a determination that Bell's patent application provided a clear and comprehensive description of the invention. Despite the Supreme Court's ruling, the controversy surrounding the invention of the telephone continued for many years. Some historians and inventors still argue that Elisha Gray was the true inventor of the telephone, or that other inventors, such as Antonio Meucci, had developed similar technologies before Bell. The legal battles surrounding the telephone patent had a profound impact on the early telecommunications industry. They solidified Bell's position as the undisputed inventor of the telephone and allowed the Bell Telephone Company to establish a dominant position in the market. The lawsuits also highlighted the importance of intellectual property protection and the intense competition that can arise in the wake of groundbreaking inventions. The triumphs were hard-earned, and the challenges left a lasting mark. Chapter 6: Challenges and Controversies. Navigating the Waters of Fame. As the world lauded the telephone's inventor, Alexander Graham Bell found himself drifting into the turbulent waters of fame, a place where admiration mingles with scrutiny, and every accomplishment attracts as much contention as it does celebration. The years following the telephone's debut were marked not by respite, but by a storm of legal, personal, and ethical challenges that threatened to overshadow Bell's ingenuity. The first and most persistent rumble came in the courts. The promise of transmitting the human voice across miles electrified not just the public imagination, but the business and scientific communities. Patents were gold, and Bell's 1876 patent for the telephone quickly became the most contested of the era. No fewer than 600 lawsuits would be filed against Bell and his associates, most famously by Elisha Gray, whose own device, submitted on the same day, triggered a landmark battle over precedence. Bell was thrust into an unrelenting cycle of depositions, hearings, and cross-examinations. Critics combed through his notebooks, questioned his integrity, and sought to discredit the leap that had ushered the world into a new age. To many, Bell's triumph was suspect. Could he alone have discovered such a marvel? Or had he borrowed, perhaps unconsciously, from others laboring at the edges of possibility? For Bell, the relentless legal battles were draining. He was, at heart, a scientist and teacher unaccustomed to the cutthroat world of corporate rivalry and patent warfare. The dissonance between public adulation and personal anxiety was profound. Behind the facade of the brilliant inventor, Bell wrestled with self-doubt and the toll that notoriety inflicted on both his spirit and his family. Beyond the courtroom, Bell faced philosophical controversies, especially around the implications of his work with the deaf. Bell's passion had always been to help the speechless find their voice, drawing deeply from his mother's and wife's experiences with deafness. Yet, as his fame amplified, so did scrutiny of his views. Bell advocated for oralism, the teaching of speech and lip reading to the deaf, at the expense of sign language. He believed that integrating deaf individuals into the hearing world was a path to greater opportunity and acceptance. But to members of the deaf community and their defenders, this stance appeared as an erasure of their language and culture. The backlash was poignant and deeply personal. Educators, activists, and deaf leaders spoke out, sometimes with vigor that stung Bell to the core. He was accused of paternalism, of misunderstanding the communities he longed to help. For a man whose own philosophy was built on empathy and bridging divides, the suggestion that he might be causing harm was deeply troubling. Bell agonized over the impact of his advocacy, torn between his dedication to what he believed was best for the deaf and his growing realization that universal solutions rarely fit individual circumstances. Meanwhile, the telephone itself fostered its breed of controversy. Some saw the device as intrusive, worrying it would destroy privacy and ruin social conventions. Newspapers published editorials warning of the dangers of constant connectivity, a prescient concern in retrospect. Even as Bell's invention spread from offices to homes, the backlash grew, with detractors claiming it would encourage idle gossip, fray the fabric of society, and inundate people with unwanted noise. Yet, it was perhaps the commercialization of the telephone that most tested Bell's ideals. The transformation of his invention into a sprawling monopoly drew sharp critique from journalists and lawmakers alike. Bell himself stepped back from day-to-day operations, but could not fully escape public regard as both innovator and, to some, enabler of unchecked corporate power. Through all, Bell's greatest challenge proved internal, the burden of reconciling the man he strove to be with the realities of celebrity and controversy. He sought solace in family, in quiet scientific inquiry, and in championing causes that reflected his core values. He remained, above all, a believer in the fundamental goodness of invention, a tool to draw people closer, not to sow discord or division. In these crucibles, Bell's character was forged anew. He emerged chastened but steadfast, forced to defend his actions, explain his motivations, and confront the unintended consequences of even the noblest ambitions. The echo of his innovation was, in these moments, a complicated one composed as much of human frailty as of genius. From these challenges and controversies, Bell's legacy was not merely preserved, but deepened, a reminder that every revolution has its price, and that the journey from silence to speech encompasses not just triumphs, but trials. Chapter 7. The Architect of Sound, Legacy and Impact. Long after the telephone's first ring faded into memory, the full resonance of Alexander Graham Bell's legacy began to emerge, vivid, complex, and deeply intertwined with the modern world. Bell was not merely the designer of an instrument. He was the architect of a new era. His innovations spun invisible threads across continents, reshaping how humanity experienced sound, silence, and connection. But his influence would come to extend far beyond the boundaries of his inventions. The world Bell remade was one where distance no longer meant disconnection. When he uttered that historic summons, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you," he did more than call for his assistant. He called forth a revolution. The telephone became a symbol of possibility, shrinking cities and expanding communities. Letters, once the fastest medium for distant communication, gave way to instantaneous conversation. Business, diplomacy, and even simple friendships all found a new cadence, liberated from the tyranny of geography. But Bell's influence did not rest with the telephone alone. He was an indefatigable innovator, restless and curious. In aeronautics, Bell's experiments with tetrahedral kites and hydrofoils laid the groundwork for advances in flight and watercraft. He worked on early versions of metal detectors, seeking solutions as diverse as tracking bullets in soldiers' bodies to understanding the mysteries of the universe's structure. Each venture was driven less by commercial ambition than by a burning desire to explore the unknown and empower others. Perhaps his most profound legacy, however, lies in the world of education. Bell never abandoned his commitment to the deaf community. He helped found institutions, trained teachers, and advocated for technological tools that would unlock potential where others saw only limitation. The visible speech system, while ultimately supplanted by other methods, reflected Bell's belief that communication was a human right, a channel for connection, that technology could democratize. The controversy around oralism is now viewed in a more nuanced light. Although his approach is no longer universally endorsed, Bell's underlying motive to expand opportunity, to bridge divides, remains respected. His life became a template for the ethical responsibilities of inventors. That creativity and compassion must be twin beacons when forging tools that change lives. Bell's legacy is one of humility and generosity. He never considered himself a born genius. Instead, he was a relentless worker, a listener as much as a speaker. The echoes of his guidance can be heard in the students he mentored, the scientists he collaborated with, and the family he cherished. He treated failure as instruction, setback as motivation. To Bell, progress was not an individual prize, but a collective advance, a legacy he passed down to future generations of inventors. As the 20th century unfurled, the tendrils of Bell's ingenuity expanded. The telephone lines multiplied, encircling the globe, giving rise to radio, television, and eventually the digital networks that now power the information age. Each new technology bore the DNA of that first invention. The notion that humanity could and should reach across gaps, that ideas shared or ideas multiplied. Recognition of Bell's contributions pours forth even now. Cities, schools, and scientific centers bear his name. His story is taught not just as a timeline of innovation, but as a lesson in empathy, perseverance, and the moral complexities that all inventors must reckon with. His laboratories, once small havens of creativity, are now emblems of how a single mind, when fueled by compassion, can alter the course of history. But perhaps Bell's truest legacy is the symphony of voices that fill the world today: children calling parents across oceans, students collaborating across continents, friends sharing joy and comfort over the airwaves. Every conversation, every connection is an echo of Bell's original vision, that technology should never replace the human voice, but amplify it, deepen it, and allow it to cross boundaries once thought insurmountable. In weaving together the story of Alexander Graham Bell, we see more than just the rise of a transformative technology. We encounter the enduring hope that invention is, at its best, an act of empathy, a bridge from silence to speech, from isolation to belonging, from the past into the infinite possibility of the future. Chapter 8: The Enduring Echo. The legacy of Alexander Graham Bell lingers not merely in the devices we use or the institutions that bear his name, but in the echo that travels from one generation to the next, the enduring reverberation of his belief that the barriers of silence can be overcome by ingenuity, persistence, and empathy. Bell's life, when viewed from the summit of the 21st century, reveals itself as a story both finished and unfinished, its resonance carried forward by each new voice that finds its audience. in the early glow of the digital age, it would be easy to see the telephone as a relic, a stepping stone to email, video chat, and the countless other methods we now possess for instant communication. Yet to reduce Bell's contribution to mere hardware is to miss the profound shift in human experience that he catalyzed. For the first time in history, a mother could hear her child's laughter from across a city. Two lovers, separated by oceans, could share the intimacy of whispered words. A doctor, with nothing but a wire and a voice, could save a life far from reach. These freedoms, now so common, were once little more than dreams made real by the echo of Bell's vision. His enduring echo, though, is neither mechanical nor bound to a single age. It is the ethic of connection, the assertion that no one, however isolated, needs to be alone. Bell's life was lived in the shadow of silence and the light of speech. His inventions were instruments, yes, but also symbols of the relentless human drive to join one another, to reach across not just physical distance, but the boundaries of experience, ability, and understanding. This is most clear in the lasting impact of his work with the deaf community. While time has altered the strategies and philosophies of deaf education, Bell's advocacy continues to remind us that every voice matters, whether spoken, signed, or felt. The debates that swirled around his methods now serve as reminders of the importance of listening as well as speaking, of honoring the diverse ways people express themselves. His story is a call to humility and a testament to the reality that even the sincerest efforts can sometimes miss the mark, requiring us as a society to adjust our course with compassion and wisdom. In the laboratory, Bell's restless spirit never ceased exploring. His notebooks brimmed not only with telephones and speech diagrams, but with sketches of flying machines, ideas for renewable energy, and musings on the nature of sound itself. He saw every problem as an invitation to curiosity, and every person as a potential collaborator. The echo of his work thus transcends even those who know his name, seeping silently into the ethos of modern research. That knowledge is to be shared, and discovery is a tapestry woven by many hands. The years since Bell's passing have contained their symphony of advances. Yet every new technology that brings us closer together can be traced back in one way or another to his foundational insight. The internet, the smartphone, the cochlear implant, and many wonders he had imagined, all are children of that first radical conviction. That sound can be shaped, harnessed, and sent across the world, connecting not just places, but people. In homes, classrooms, and laboratories across the planet. The echo persists. A child, deaf from birth, learns her first words in a school Bell helped establish. An engineer, inspired by his life, pushes the boundaries of what machines can hear and understand. A family, separated by continents, reunites not in form, but in voice, across the hum of a digital line. In all these moments, the story of Bell continues not as a history, but as a living, evolving presence. As we close this volume, we do not say goodbye to Alexander Graham Bell. Instead, we carry his story with us, in every conversation that bridges a gap, in every act of invention that seeks to heal, to help, to unite. His echo endures in the paradox of innovation itself, that every new solution brings new questions, and every connection lays bare a new opportunity for empathy. Let us listen, then, to the echoes, not just of Bell himself, but of all those who yearn to be heard, the silent, the isolated, the dreamers whose voices have not yet been invented into being. In nurturing their sound and in answering their call, we join Bell's journey from silence to speech, ensuring that the echo of innovation remains loud, clear, and unending. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button to support the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an audiobook that could change your life now. Let's begin. Enjoy.